Oh man. So I mean, yeah. I mean these courts. I don't even know what to say with these courts, man. I mean these courts. It's like all of these liberal institutions. I mean, just like we need to take them all back. We need to take them all back. I mean, the only reason they had all these things is because back in the '60s, they turned the '60s radicals into teachers and politicians and artists. That's why they have what they have now. We need to take it all back. We need to take it all back. All of these influencers. We need to take all of them back. All of these big influencing jobs, and take them all back. We need them back. Because if we don't take them back, it's going to be a disaster. Speaking of disasters, let's move on to another article from the New York Times. It's about internet censorship and Theresa May and the EU, and it's very interesting. So let's go ahead. So New York Times is reporting, this is an op-ed from the New York Times saying, making Google the censor. So it goes on to say, Prime Minister Theresa May's political fortunes may be waning in Britain, but her push to make internet companies police their users' speech is alive and well. Of course, this is talking about how Theresa May, after the attack about a week ago at this point in London, her response was to come out and say, "Oh, we need to crack down on the internet." That was her response to the attack. I mean, that's just what is that? What is that? We need to crack down on the internet. And then she said in a speech, this is the reason she lost, by the way. She said in a speech, "Oh yeah, we don't have time for human rights. We don't have time. We can't be. We need to forget about them. We don't have time for human rights." And everyone thought, "Oh yeah, that's a big gaffe. I mean, she's gonna come out and apologize for that, right?" No, you know what she did? She came out and she tweeted it, like she was proud of it. She tweeted it. She quoted herself, like it was an inspirational quote. It was like, "Oh yeah, we don't have time for human rights." Quote Theresa May. And then there was a video of her saying it. And I saw that and I was like, is this a parody account? I mean, is this an attack ad? I mean, what is this? She's tweeting that out like she's proud of it. Who does that? Who does that? So that's why she lost, by the way. I mean, there's no other reason. She had everything going for her, all the polls. Then she said that, and she had a dumb response to the terror attacks, just in general, just so dumb. So everyone said no. All the people who were thinking about it, they were like, no. Yeah, I mean, what are you doing? You're saying we need to crack down on the internet to fight terrorism? You're gonna say that, even though you could be saying we need to crack down on Islamic immigration to this country and this mass immigration campaign that the EU is pushing. Point to the EU and say, yeah, look, the reason this is happening is because the EU won't let us control our borders. So we need to do Brexit, and we need to do it fast so we can get control over our borders again. But what did she do instead? She said, "Oh yeah, human rights, waste of time, come on, human rights, come on. Internet freedom, what is that? Internet freedom. We need to crack down on the internet to tackle Islamic extremism." Which, by the way, she says that, she really means crack down on all offensive content, hate speech, and all that. So it was just a terrible response, and she didn't even acknowledge it as a reason she lost. She didn't even acknowledge anything. How ridiculous is that? This is a pattern. Like, you have Hillary Clinton, who refuses to say why she lost. She refuses to give any reason other than Russia, Comey, sexism. She has no real reasons. Theresa May comes out, she has no reasons either, and it's ridiculous. But her whole call to police the internet is definitely still alive and well, I mean, according to the article, and it is because, I mean, already in the rest of Europe, and even in Britain, I mean, internet freedom is not a thing. It does not exist anymore. On Twitter, you can see people who live in Britain who tweet out and they say, "Hey, look, maybe we need to look at, like, Islamic immigration and maybe crack down on that in order to stop these terror attacks. And then you have liberals tweeting back at them. They're tagging the London police, the Metro police. They're saying, hey look, hate speech, take this guy down. The police. What? What? What is that? You're gonna tell the police that someone said on Twitter, oh, maybe we need to think about immigration and maybe we shouldn't have unfiltered Islamic immigration. They're gonna say that, and then you're gonna go, oh, police, this guy's being a bigot, arrest him. What? What are you doing? What are you doing? What? That's being a liberal these days? That's what liberal means now? Liberal means, oh yeah, hate speech. Police, this guy, hate speech, take him down. That's being a liberal these days? I mean, that's in Britain. I mean, we're not too far off. I mean, at this point, we're not very far off. We need to remember that. Like, we laugh at Europe and Britain and all that, but like, it could happen here. It's very close to happening here. And it could happen if we let them have the power that they want. Because if they have the power that they want, then they're gonna crack down on everything. They're gonna crack down on free speech. They're gonna crack down on everything that we love. They're gonna crack down on absolutely everything. Because they're just animals, man. They're just animals. They just have hatred in their hearts. You know what I mean? They just have so much hatred. They hate us. They really hate us. I mean, they really do. They really, really do. And they're gonna go in Britain and tell the police that someone said something edgy on Twitter. What is that? And of course that happens. The media. You think the media would say, oh my god, look at Britain, there's like no free speech. You can't even say anything on Twitter without someone getting you arrested. No, the media, you know what the media says about that? The media says nothing. The media says absolutely nothing. The media is silent. Media is dead silent. So it's just crazy. I mean, and this is happening all over Europe. In Europe, there's just no internet freedom at all. I mean, it's just not even a thing. In Germany, in the article here, it says, Germany wants to fine platforms up to 50 million euros if they don't quickly take down illegal content. And a European Union draft law would make sure YouTube and other video hosts are responsible for ensuring that users never share violent speech. Violent speech. What is that? Violent speech. Violent speech. What is violent speech? What is violent speech? What is that? What is violent speech? Because here's the thing. Like, we live in different worlds, right? Us and the liberals, we live in totally different worlds. In their world, words are like fists. And you can physically attack someone with words. In their world, that's what it is. They believe that, oh yeah, words are violent and words hurt, not emotionally. Words hurt physically. Words are violence. So that's their logic now. That's the logic that they're using in Germany and in Europe. They're saying, yeah, this speech right here is violent. It physically attacked me. Take it down. That's what they're saying. Violent speech. And they define violent speech. In the article, it doesn't say what they define as violent speech, but I can guarantee you that violent speech to the liberals that are making these laws, violent speech just means anything that we don't like, that we don't agree with. Anything that's somewhat edgy or somewhat controversial, that's violent speech. Take it down, fine the guy that made the post or something like that, anything like that. Find the guy who made the post, and then maybe even arrest him. There are arrests in Europe over speech online. Arrests. Fines and arrests. I mean, this is like... And they always say, oh, Russia's gonna threaten our freedom and democracy. Europe doesn't even have freedom and democracy. They have this. This is what they have in Europe. And if we let the liberals have power here, that's what we're gonna have in here too. We're gonna have just censorship and fines and jail time for edgy memes online. That's what they have in Europe. And if we let the liberals have their way here, it's gonna happen here too. So we need to be vigilant. We need to be we need to be strong. We need to not let them have the power they want. Because if we let them have it, that's what they're going to do. That's what they're going to do. It's going to happen here. Anyway, moving on, right? Sometimes platforms remove too little. More often, the research suggests, they remove too much, silencing contested speech rather than risking liability. So what it's saying is that what they're doing is they're pressuring these internet social media companies. They're pressuring the companies into taking down these things. And the thing is, right, you're a company, you can't monitor everything that gets posted on your site. It's just not possible. There's so many hours of material posted on YouTube every day. So many hours that it would be impossible to watch all of it. So they have to pretty much play the guessing game. And then what happens is that when they have the Europe threatening to fine them if they don't take down content that they find violent and offensive, then they sort of side with the safety more than maybe we let it go. Instead of saying, oh, it's probably nothing, let's just let it go, they say, oh, well, it's probably nothing, but if it is something, we get fined, so let's just take it down anyway. So they're going to take down too much. I mean, first of all, they're saying that this is going to be an accident. I doubt it. I think they're gonna try and take down all of the dissident voices, and then they're gonna take down even more along with it, because you can't watch everything. So it's a mess in Europe right now. It's such a mess. And then it says, this is something that's hilarious, by the way. European politicians tout the proposed laws as curbs on the power of big American internet companies. I mean, what is that? What is that? Curbs on the power of big American internet companies. Now look, I'm an American. I despise big internet companies. I despise them. I think they're awful. But in Europe, you're gonna say that cracking down on free speech in your country is going to limit the power of these companies? You're giving them more power. You're giving them the power to censor even more than they actually do. And this is disgusting, by the way, because they're trying to add a populist sort of spin to it. They're trying to say, oh no, this isn't censorship. It's just us standing up to American big companies and looking out for our people instead of American companies. Which is ridiculous, because they're saying, oh, we're limiting the power of these big American companies for our people's benefit. In reality, they're using the power of the companies to harm their own people. So it's completely backwards. It's completely backwards, their whole logic here of, oh yeah, this is actually a populist kind of thing. What are you talking about? This is limiting their power. You're giving them more power. You're giving them the power to take down whatever they want. Because you're saying, oh yeah, because, hate speech, just take it all down, That's apparently giving them less power. It's giving them more power. And the scarier part, in the article it says, studies suggest that ordinary internet users self-censor when they think they're being surveilled. I mean, how horrible is that? People will self-censor when they think they're being surveilled. Is there a single person in the entire country, I'm talking about America, even in Europe, is there a single person who doesn't think they're being watched by some spy agency in their government or another government? Or you have the NSA and the CIA all over the place on the internet. Everyone thinks... No. They know. Everyone knows they're being spied on. They're being surveilled on the internet. So that means that almost everyone is self-censoring to some extent. That's horrible. That's disgusting. That's just ridiculous that we're having this going on. And of course the media says, oh yeah, the press is a champion of the First Amendment. They say nothing. They say nothing about this because here's the thing. They don't care at all about our rights. They care about their own rights and their own profits, more importantly for them. Their own profits. They don't care about us. It's never been about us. It's been about them. It's been about their pockets, their money. It's been about their profits. It's been about all that. So they don't care about us. In fact, I'd even say they hate us. They despise us. They despise us completely. They have complete contempt for us. They just despise us in just a disgusting way. It's so sick. The press, so sick. The press is so disgusting. They don't even report on this. Now, of course, this is an op-ed on the New York Times, so I give them credit for having this up. I give them credit. New York Times, good job. I like that you have this on your website. But it's not a big issue for them. It's just like one op-ed. It's not like a whole, like, this should be the news. I go online. I go on these news sites and on cable news. Why can't, when we go on these things, why can't we be seeing, oh my god, there's no free speech in Europe. Oh my god, Europe is trying to censor and trying to fine companies for not deleting their hate speech. Oh, this is ridiculous. Why can't they report on that? Instead you go on and what are they reporting? They're reporting Russia, Watergate 2.0, Russia, over and over and over and over and over again. And they're not talking about this. This is a real issue. Because not only is it happening in Europe, it could happen here. Because we already have the rhetoric. We already have the rhetoric of, oh, hate speech isn't free speech. Hate speech is violence. Hate speech should be deleted off the internet. We have that rhetoric here already. So if we let them win and take power, they'll do the exact same thing here. But the media, because they don't care about us, and in fact the media is probably for that, it's like secretly for censorship. They don't really care about us. They don't report that. They don't report anything like that. And instead they report Russia all day long, and nothing else but Russia. Russia, all day long, never ever ends, just Russia, 24/7. Even though this is a real issue, and it's just so ridiculous. The article continues to go on and says, this is a little paragraph here. If politicians think that eroding online expression rights will make us safer, they should explain how. Yes, they should. For all the rhetoric, we know very little about whether curbing online speech prevents real-world violence. What little research we have suggests that driving violent or hateful material into dark corners of the web may make matters worse. So what they're saying here is they're saying, look, they keep on saying, oh, if we crack down on hate and extremism online, then it'll prevent real-world attacks. That's their logic. That's their excuse. But there's no evidence for that at all. And there hasn't been very much research on this. But the research that we have says that if you try and push this violent rhetoric to like deep, dark corners of the web, it actually makes the problem worse. And they're right about that. They're so right about that. Because here's the thing. What happens when you have a group of people and they get shunned from society? They get agitated, and they get angry, and they get rebellious, and they get even more fired up and ready to attack and ready to fight for what they see as their rights. That's what's going on with terrorism and with just plain old hate speech and right-wing hate speech online. You push them into a corner, you push them away, you shun them from society, and they go into these obscure little corners where they're just to themselves, and they just build up resentment and even more anger and hate that pushes them even further to the extremes. So the idea that, oh yeah, if we center them, then the problem will go away, it makes the problem worse. So when it comes to both terrorism and just plain old hate speech, just leave it up. And I know it's controversial to say, just leave up terrorism, right? Leave up terrorist propaganda. Leave it up. Leave it up there, so everyone can laugh at it, and everyone can say, why it's ridiculous. Because here's the thing. Here's logic that people use. They say, hey, if this is so crazy, then why are people so afraid of having other people see it? If this is apparently so ridiculous and so insane, then why are they so afraid of having it online for people to see? And that's it makes sense. I mean, obviously, terrorist propaganda is crazy. So why are we so afraid of people seeing it? Yeah, some people may be influenced and they might be radicalized by it and they might be inspired by it. But at the same time, you'll have so many other people who will see that and say, "Oh my God, these people are out of their minds. These people are crazy. What are these people talking about? These people are just completely, they've lost it." So, this whole internet censorship thing, there's no proof that doing it stops any kind of violence, and there's proof, a little bit of proof, that it just makes it worse. Censoring makes it worse. So in Europe, the whole situation with internet freedom is just really scary and sad, and like I said before, if we don't keep the left in this country from getting more power, then it could happen here. And that is a scary thought.